Testing, testing, testing. You guys can hear me, right?
No, I can't hear you at all.
What? Who's that?
What a bunch of clowns, you guys.
Yous guys.
Trying to trick me.
Did it work?
Always clowning around.
What?
Today I learned the Italian word for clown is pagliacci.
Oh, that reminds me of what was that cartoon? It was really funny. Somebody turned into a clown and he named himself Pagliacci. It's so depressing. Oh, it was Homestar Runner.
Huh.
Have you guys ever seen Homestar Runner?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
years. Many years.
What's his face? The sad one.
I don't know.
Strong Sad. That's it.
Oh.
Yeah, it's been a while. I used to love that cartoon. That is terrifying.
Isn't it?
That said, the owner of the channel can add emotes.
That sounds like a lot of work.
It does.
It's not that bad. Not something we'd do right now, though.
Okay, does anybody have any questions before we get started?
Yes, have you added the emotes yet?
No. No, I haven't.
That's all.
Okay.
Oh, actually, I do have a random question that just popped in mind.
Sure.
You recall the letter that Quentin sent to Spain?
Mm-hmm.
I was just curious if that was still a timeline that's happening off screen.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, you wouldn't know that. You would have no idea what's going on, but I can tell you that's definitely in the background.
Mostly just pondering things. Just like, I wonder if he's actually following through on that or not.
Mm-hmm. You also have to keep in mind the turnaround times for messages to get relayed in this day and age.
Like I said, about a 2-week turnaround.
We'll put a pin in that. Put a pin in that and get started. All right. So the scene fades in on this night, and we return to our 3 Canaanites leaving Elysium. Tito, Simon, and Michael, intent on investigating the sewers and hunting down the rogue vampire Harper. As was told to Tito by Marco Vespucci himself, that this Canaanite held some sensitive information and had to be silenced. What Tito actually needs to do, we don't know. What do we all see when we turn back to the 3 of you moving across the moonlit streets, starting with Simon, leaving Elysium?
I did leave with the 2 of these clowns.
I thought that's the direction you were going, but if you had some other plans, you can change them now.
No, I just didn't know if we were leaving immediately.
That was my impression, but feel free to correct me.
Yeah, that sounds right.
All right. Well, Simon will look back and forth from Tito to Michael and Michael to Tito. You 2 aren't going to embarrass me tonight, are you?
That will depend on your sensibilities, I'd imagine.
What I mean is, you need to keep your head on your shoulders. Where we're going is a very dangerous place.
What dangers should we expect?
There is the cleanse, of course, if they're mucking about on that side of the city. Then, if our Ventral was not able to remove all of the cleaning group, there might be some of them left behind. Then, of course, there's Harper himself. He's a rather crafty Nosferatu, and we can be dangerous when we're crafty.
So you're saying mortals that like to break the silence of the blood, and a vampire who's like to kill us on sight? Yeah?
Something like that, yes.
So basically it's Tuesday.
Simon wrinkles his nose, or what's left of it.
What do we see when we turn to Tito as this exchange is going on?
Tito is in thoughts of how we can ensure this venture to be successful.
And who is leading this group, the three of you moving through the city?
Let's assume Tito stepped out first.
Alright, so Tito is leading this group. And where are you leading them, Tito? Are you heading down any old sewer entrance? Are you choosing any entry point with particular qualities or location?
Well, assuming it's in the Eastern District, we would head to the Eastern District first.
Sounds reasonable. And lastly, what all is everyone bringing? What do they have on them? Just for clarification.
Michael would be dressed in rough spun clothing, nothing fancy because dirty work. He's carrying a satchel, nothing of particular note inside.
That is a question that I always forget, and it's something Simon would remember. Would he be able to get his hands on a dagger of some kind, or a knife? He feels useless without one.
I think given his skill set, he'd absolutely be able to come up with that at some point or another. I haven't been leaving you guys much time for downtime, as things have been moving kind of one moment to the next. But it's not unreasonable for him to have a knife.
He might have even stolen one from Quinn's house. Sorry, Quinn. You won't need it anymore.
And on that note, while I'm thinking about it, I didn't really bring this up in the past games, but Quinn and Simon, when they were heading down to the docks, Quinn would have relayed to Simon the letters that Tristan gave him, the correspondence between Eleanor Gray and Cole Masters, and I assume that this is something that Simon might have picked up before leaving.
That is a good idea, yes.
Alright, just putting that out there. And Tito, what is Tito bringing?
Tito is bringing his standard outfit, which if I recall was like a Blackfriars robe, and any other weapons of the sort Tito does not carry with him.
Alright, but otherwise he does look somewhat like clergy. That's intentional?
Yes.
Okay. Alright, that's helpful. So, led by Tito, the group of you make your way across the street. You are mostly left uninterrupted. You see that the cleanse is starting to move back into the streets, back into force, it seems like. Whatever this new leadership has been settled, they seem to be reorganized, but you're not accosted by them tonight. You make your way to one of these grates in the streets that leads down to the waterways, and change background as you move over there. Okay, so the group of you descending into the darkness of the waterway, you feel the drips of cold, grimy runoff occasionally stain your clothes and your skin, your head, as you begin to slosh through the low puddles and pools here and there, finally reaching the bottom. And quickly, you each realize it is almost pitch black down here. The ambient light from above it's gone by the time you've made it, 10 or 20 yards in. There's no ambient light from torches, no moon or stars. Mostly you're feeling around down here, unless you make use of some kind of supernatural augmentation. But Simon, because you are an Nosferatu and you are the most familiar with traversing these tunnels in times past, it's far less jarring for you to be down here.
Now we come to it.
Michael is going to employ Eyes of the Beast. And suddenly his eyes begin glowing a bestial red.
What the hell is that?
Tools of the trade, lad. Tools of the trade.
Wonderful. I can already see quite fine down here.
Well, I can't, so you're going to have to lead me. I know some of the twists and turns of these tunnels, but in the dark it would be difficult.
Though, if there are sewer workers down here, it may cause a bit of a fright.
I've already given them a bit of a fright, don't you worry about them.
What with the need for maintaining the silence of blood, I believe I'll do my best to stay on my guard. Hopefully their torchlight will alert us to their presence long before they see us.
That's what I thought too, but they got the jump on me.
Well, we shall use the utmost caution if we do see any light.
Aye, wits about you, lads.
You must make me a promise while we're down here.
Mm-hmm.
You will kill no one.
I'll do my best.
It is not the quickest way to solve a problem. Sure.
Why doesn't that put me at ease?
It is not the promise you were looking for.
Is Tito still leading this group?
Tito will take the lead in this darkness.
Alright, and because of the ritual that you cast, that you learned from your sire, you are able to see quite well down here. There's no real difficulty for you. So what you'll be doing here is making an extended roll for perception investigation, standard difficulty, and each roll will be an hour's worth of effort for your attempts.
Is this just Tito doing the roll, or?
It's whoever's leading, so right now it's just Tito.
Fair enough.
Unless you want to split up or something.
I suspect we shouldn't split up. Perception alertness. What difficulty did you say
Perception
again?
investigation. Sorry.
Oh, investigation.
Standard. It's an extended roll, so you have a target number of successes.
Michael's going to go ahead and take up or bring up the rear just to make sure Simon doesn't get lost or turned around.
Okay.
He seems remarkably easy down here. Not like he's nervous about getting lost anyway. He just can't see.
At the moment, Tito is casually looking around.
You are noticing at least a dearth, a lack of sewer workers. Simon, you noticed immediately that by now you certainly would have run into some or heard their moving around, as they aren't very stealthy. So it seems like, at least in this area, at least for now, Genevieve has come through. There don't seem to be any sewer workers causing any trouble.
He makes silent note of that.
Let's see, that's 3 hours. That's a lot of 10s you can reroll. You are currently at 9 successes. 10 successes. Alright, so after about 3 hours, Simon, you would know that you've scanned at least half of the eastern waterways down here. You haven't found it yet, but you know that there's only so much left of this area that can be navigated, that can be investigated.
We've searched much of what there is to search. Either he's not here, or he is and he's playing with us.
Well enough. So Michael will call out, Harper!
And Tito looks around, seeing if anyone shows up.
We just want to talk.
Make a perception alertness, standard difficulty for each of you. For Simon, because you lack any ability to see particularly well down here, it's going to be difficulty 8 for you. Alright, you don't hear any response. The voice, Michael's voice, echoes a bit down these halls through the water. You don't really see or hear anything, though.
Are there any animals down here?
Not that you've seen, curiously enough.
That worries him more than anything. He's going to try to summon some.
Alright, make your... assume a Call of the Wild, Charisma, Survival, standard difficulty.
Simon actually stops and leans down and starts making weird chittering noises. Oops.
You you feel like you certainly would have had a response by now. You know, in the past, you've done this. You've had, even in the Tower of London, which seemed, quite bare of animals, you were still able to pull rats out of the corners of the boxes. They came to you. But here, nothing comes, nothing responds.
Simon looks at the glowing eyes in the dark nervously.
No response. Something's wrong.
No response from the animals.
No animals.
London sewers are normally crawling with rats.
Quite literally.
None of them came to me. Not one.
Any plans of what to do now?
Harper!
Your calls are met with silence.
There's a twisted fat fuck once you did.
We want to make sure that doesn't happen. Let's continue on. There is still more sewer to search. Although it still concerns me we haven't run into him yet.
Well, I had assumed it wouldn't be as easy as 3 hours in a sewer, unless Marco would have found him himself by now.
If he's purposely hiding from us, we'll never find him.
But I found most Nosferatu, if they don't want to be seen, they're just not. I'd say, if he were going to show himself, he would have.
Well then, let's continue looking around, see what else we can find. Perhaps there's a clue somewhere.
Were you expecting breadcrumbs?
Perhaps some dwelling. Maybe a sign where the animals have gone.
That's the only thing that's telling me he's probably here. Otherwise, I might have assumed he found a different hidey hole.
Perhaps he's eaten the animal population. Perhaps if we find corpses, it could lead us to where he remains.
Corpses for a few thousand rats. Are you daft?
Tito is right. He wouldn't be able to move his entire stash of corpses, whether they be human or rat. We might be able to find his nest at least.
No, I don't disagree with you. I'm simply suggesting that we'd have found them by now.
You underestimate the craft of the Nosferatu. He would not make it easy to find.
Yes. Let's take another search around. There's still a little bit of the sewers remains, yes? Simon?
On this side, London is a big town.
And if we run into any animals, we know we've strayed from the path.
It's the best we've got.
Tito will begin looking around again, this time specifically looking for a large amount of dead animals of the sort.
Alright, you may resume your perception investigation roll.
Are we going to another 10?
I decided to not do re-exploding 10s. Which gets insane.
No, I mean another 10 successes.
Oh, you don't know exactly what your target is, but I do.
Okay.
Simon's really the only one who knows about how much you've covered. You're closing in on about 3/4 of it.
Six hours we've been looking.
Indeed, at this point you have to start to consider when dawn will come, as night does not last forever.
This moment, I'd expect we'll be finding the lad just in time for him to fall unconscious.
I suppose we would be safe down here.
Until some sanitarian comes through.
Rather not abandon after we've put so much effort into this search.
Are you suggesting we sleep the day away down here? You realize this is not secure.
Oh, I fully know. Simon, would there be a safe place to rest that you know of?
Do I know of?
Yes.
Well, I'm asking the storyteller.
Let me think. Give you intelligence survival difficulty 5. Assuming you have it. Otherwise it's higher.
I do.
Okay.
It's not great, but I have it.
You recall that there are some cisterns down here, some larger reservoirs of water that have some pockets, some niches that can be hidden that are a bit more discreet. They're the places that the kind don't really poke around in, even when they do come down here. You think that in a pinch, you might be able to use those.
Simon will say then,
I know a few very good hidey holes. If you consider it worth the risk, that is.
Fair enough. I suppose I'll have to earn these clothes after this anyway.
Yes.
The smell will wash out. You don't need to go to theatrics.
Well then, we'll continue our search for a bit longer. When dawn approaches, we'll use this hidey hole you know of, Simon.
Simon doesn't look so sure, but he nods anyway. There are, after all, reasons why he doesn't stay down here himself.
Alright, you can stop rolling at that point as you finish your search, realizing, Simon would realize that you are coming to the last of the known eastern sewers. And actually, ironically perhaps, it is the same hidey hole, the same cistern area that you had planned for your emergency daylight sleep. You are making your way through here, and Simon, you recognize the architecture as you're moving, and realize where you're going as you approach this area, and find the small cramped sewer passage is opening up. It opens up into this large cistern space with the deeper water, and you see the rows and rows of columns of support leading to arched and vaulted stone ceilings, and that you have to step down into some water to really enter, as there are very few landings that aren't several feet submerged. And for the first time in, let's see, 7 hours, about 7 or maybe even 8 hours of searching, you see light, a faint and low light in the back of the chamber that dimly illuminates the rest of the room. But it's very difficult to make the fine details out. There you go, wits alertness, difficulty 9 for everyone, difficulty 8 for Simon.
Ooh.
Alright, so Michael and Tito are walking to the edge of this, and let's see here. Tell me again the order of who's walking front. It's not wide enough for people to walk sidelong, so it's really a single file unless someone stops or something.
It's Tito's in front.
Tito's in the lead.
Simon's in between the two, and then Michael's bringing up the rear.
Okay. So Tito makes it to the edge of this, and think about this. Yeah, Tito makes it to the edge of this, basically the opening itself of this cistern. And Simon, you notice behind him, he's stepping forward, and behind him there's this divot in the architecture, in the tunnel that wasn't there. It's not anywhere. You've never seen anything like this. It's some kind of modification. And it looks like that at the edge of the stonework, there's this divot that rings the entrance of the cistern, and in the shadowed base of the divot are small holes, a few inches apart, at regular intervals, in a linear pattern. They're on the bottom and the top half of the entrance, but Tito's already stepped past it.
Simon will very quietly get Michael's attention. And he'll nod over to them.
What do those look like to you?
Notches in the stone. Perforations?
Some kind of trap.
As Simon's saying it, Michael's going to reach out and try and yank Tito back from the edge.
Tito's oblivious completely.
You're able to do that. You pull him, and Tito, you just feel yourself get pulled back into the tunnel by someone behind you.
Tito jerks his head around to see Mike pulling him.
Michael's going to go ahead and point out the same little notches, holes all the way around the entryway. Could be darts, could be something to trigger a collapse.
Someone took the time to build it.
Or previously the location of a grate or a gate.
Whatever it is. It's a good thing I did not remain behind it. Thank you.
How far back does it look like this chamber goes?
It's hard to tell. The columns occlude most of the interior. You can't really see the edges. You've known of its existence generally, never really went into it, so you can't really say with precision.
Are you here?
Tito once again looks around.
From deeper in the tunnel, you can't really see much into the cistern. You just have this circular view that's not very revealing.
Let's continue. Be on extra alert for any more traps.
Michael's going to go inspect these holes.
What is Simon doing during his time?
Simon is twisting his body this way and that, trying to look around the columns, not really expecting to see anything. Hoping against hope that their quarry is here somewhere.
Like I said, it's very difficult to see anything from inside the tunnel, given that the columns obstruct most vision. You'd have to be inside to really examine the area, otherwise you're pretty limited.
So to go forward, do we need to step in this entrance, or is there like a separate path?
It's just a straight away into the cistern.
I don't like it. But if he's funneling us in, let's allow ourselves to be funneled.
No fan of being trapped in a corner.
If we do get trapped, you could be on the outside.
So So Michael's inspecting these notches in the wall. Is it just a round hole, or?
They look like round holes to you. Let me see if you have any relevant knowledges or skills here. Crafts would probably be the most relevant here, or maybe some kind of enigma to solve this, but yeah, you're really not sure what these could be.
Well, Tito will inspect a trap and see perhaps if there's any way to trigger it or what it could be.
Okay. I'll give you a perception enigmas roll difficulty 8. You think, given the ideas proposed, that the most likely use of this is probably some kind of metal bar to extend. But you don't see any way to trigger it here.
If we step inside, most likely a gate will keep us locked inside.
You said the cistern has landings and pools.
Mm-hmm.
How far are we from the pool, roughly?
It'd be another few meters before you were actually out of this tunnel into the cistern, and then I gave that description kind of assuming that, well, Tito would know because he was at the edge, that there's some landings off to the left and right that you have to go through the water to get to. You can't really see them from where you are now.
Fair enough. So I was thinking perhaps we could just dive forward beyond any potential triggers. But there's not water within leaping distance. That seems like a bad idea.
Well, I guess it all depends on how determined you are.
It comes down to a choice then. Do we press on or do we not? Knowing, of course, that we're walking into a trap.
I would like to have some insurance before we step inside. Perhaps some eyes on what could be on the other side. How long before daylight?
About a couple hours, maybe.
Are there any stones on the ground? Anything hard that could maybe be wedged into these holes?
Not really, no. It's relatively pristine, actually.
Well, someone's been keeping house.
The longer you sit here, actually, you notice something of a foul odor pouring through. It was light at first. You were kind of used to the odors and the mustiness of the mildew in the water down here. But there's something else in the air. It smells foul and old.
What is that smell?
Home.
Shite.
Something else. Distinct, but I can't place it.
We could spend the rest of the night here, gapping our jaws. Or,
And he gestures towards the cistern.
It is possible he laid these traps for mortals.
You would think it would be used to keep people out, mortals out.
Then perhaps it's evidence that the master's at home.
How long would it take to make our way back to the surface and back down here? Rough estimate.
Maybe an hour and a half.
I'm not comfortable with stepping into a trap either way. Michael, what are your thoughts?
I'm no fan of being caught like a rat person.
Then let me go. If I'm trapped, find Tristan.
But, as I was going to say... Hold on. Rather to get this over with than to tarry about another night. Besides which, there are worse places to be caught than in a puddle.
At least we'll be safe from the daylight.
In theory.
Of course, if we do run into a situation where we have to flee, we would be trapped to meet the daylight.
On the other hand, Michael, how high are the ceilings in the tunnel itself?
The tunnel you're in, barely enough for you. You have to crouch a bit. It's not comfortable down here. When you're a vampire, you don't get tired, but it's certainly not easy to walk through.
And the cistern itself, higher ceilings, I would suppose?
You can't really tell exactly, but you know it does go up quite a bit. You can't see exactly how high.
So, Michael is going to, without stepping across the threshold, he's going to try and climb up the wall and kind of scale sidelong along it.
Alright. Give me more description of what you're doing to make this maneuver.
So he's going to traverse along the wall, trying to find handholds and footholds as he goes. If it looks too sheer, he's going to pop claws.
It's pretty sheer. It's a pretty round tunnel. You could try and maybe, push yourself from one at the left side to the right side and kind of not sure what the word is, but avoiding the bottom by using your hands and feet to press across the sides or something. Otherwise,
right.
You'd need something else.
Well, no, what I'm saying is on the inside of the cistern. Not
I see.
in the tunnel, yeah.
Yeah, those columns look pretty sheer. It doesn't look like there's a whole lot of handholds just from what you can see.
Then he'll go ahead and pop claws. And make his own handholds.
Alright, I believe that is reflexive. 1 blood point.
Yep.
Alright, describe your claws coming out, where they're coming from.
So his claws come from his hands, pretty sizable talons, curled just slightly, looking more like a bear's claws, if you happen to have ever seen a bear.
Alright, you have these claws for the scene. You have additional 2 dice for climbing.
What difficulty will you give me to attempt this ridiculousness?
So just to make sure it's clear in my head, you're going to try and crawl through this tunnel to the outside without touching this bottom part.
He's going to reach across the threshold, kind of from the inside, and pull himself up onto the wall of the cistern.
You're too far to do that. You're several meters away. Without crossing this circle of holes. I mean.
Okay, because I thought the trap, quote unquote, was right at the threshold.
Not quite.
Okay, so in that case, he's going to kind of, I guess, wall crawl Spider-Man style.
Okay, that makes sense. For that, go ahead and do Dexterity, Athletics, maybe difficulty 8.
That could have gone better.
You try and press into the stone with these claws, and you're trying for a few moments, and you can't get a good grip. You're just not able to make any progress on it. It's just too sheer. There's no handholds. It's kind of awkward.
Try this a different way in that case. If I were a paranoid Nosferatu, where would I place a trigger stone? What about the floor? Is it basically just all covered in goo, or can I see the actual floor?
In the tunnel or the cistern?
Well, I'm still in the tunnel. I thought I'm pretty sure I was several meters away from the cistern.
You are. The tunnel, it looks just like stone. You know, there's puddles of water here and there, but you can see it.
Okay. Is there anything that looks like an upraised surface that's outside the uniform?
You got another perception investigation roll. Difficulty 7.
Well, it's difficulty 8 because I don't have investigation, so yeah.
You don't see anything that stands up as like a trigger stone or anything that looks, you know, out of place. What's Tito during this time? What's Tito doing during this time?
He's looking curiously at Michael. Tito will look around if there's like a chokehold past the metal bars. That would be a nice spot for a trigger stone of some sort.
So you're also looking for this?
Yes.
Alright, same roll.
Difficulty 7?
Mm-hmm. You're quite certain that there are no trigger stones along this path.
Well, I see nothing that would trigger the trap. Perhaps it's a switch further in.
I was thinking the same thing. Perhaps the limestone walls of the cistern herself will be a bit easier to climb.
Since it did not trigger when we stepped in, perhaps it is fortunate that this gate is open.
He's probably in there laughing at us right now.
Perhaps. Let us just
Or-
seize this opportunity.
Or he's out here standing beside us.
Either way, we've made enough fool of ourselves that he knows we probably mean him no harm.
Let's go. Tito will step forward again. This time through the gated area. Well, potential gated area.
And this time, Simon follows.
Michael's going to kind of hug the wall as best he can. It's not a huge distance to shift, but even so. If it's going to get triggered, he doesn't want to be the one.
Alright. The three of you inch forward, making your way across this circular pattern of divots, whatever they are. And Tito leading the front, you again see more of this cistern. You can see it does go quite up. The column walls look like they raise maybe 20 or 30 feet going up. And as you, the three of you, are approaching, you hear an unfortunate and perhaps very expected sound. It's a sound of gears, it's a sound of metal, and sure enough, metal poles rise up behind you, piercing up and going into the holes above, locking you into this area. And shortly after that, you hear this raspy cackling. What do we have here? Your neonates lost their way, sitting around wondering, oh, what is this? Oh, how do we solve this? Oh. And you think you hear the sound of water splashing nearby. You don't see exactly where this is coming from yet.
Quite the opposite. It's Harper, yes. We knew it was a trap. You didn't fool us. We chose to step in because finding you was that important.
Something moves, perhaps at the edge of your peripheral vision, now that you can see a bit more of the cistern. You don't exactly see where it is, but you just see shadows moving here and there. You seem to have made a terrible mistake.
Oh, you're gonna kill us now, yeah?
Michael McGavin of the Mutts, child to Ilana and former captive of the Tremere. You tell many stories from here to there. You seem to know much, perhaps too much. You tell too many stories and this won't be one of them, but whether or not you die here is yet to be determined.
You could just ask us to keep our mouths shut.
What insurance would that be? He clearly has someone seeking to end his life.
And clearly has more than enough resources to stave off such a threat.
I have made it abundantly clear I wish no visitors, and yet here you are, trapped like my rats. My rats like this Simon thinks he can control. You think you can summon rats? My rats down here? Is that what you think? Simon, the disgraced Simon of mine own kin.
I meant no offense, Harper. Truly.
And he lowers his head.
As a matter of fact, we came because we were concerned for your safety, since you've made it abundantly clear that we want nothing
He lets out a
to
laugh,
do with
interrupting
such
you.
things.
My safety. I'm not talking to you. I'm still talking to the child of Sharptooth, once lackey of Grey Rat. You serve him, and in his death you serve his fool of a sire. One fool to the next, the blind leading the blind. Hey, Simon.
Begging your pardon, Harper, but I was never Grey Rat's lackey. I hated him. He just did interesting things. I like interesting things.
And where has your interesting path led you now, Simon? And again, you see something move around. You hear moving water, but nothing permanent yet.
Michael's going to retract his claws, since they're obviously not in use. And he's not interested in killing this person.
And you, Tito Vega of the Keepers, child Juliet Moreau, last of the Elysium survivors, what brings you here? Tell me now, why have you come?
I've come seeking you because Marco Vespucci apparently wants you dead for information you hold. It is my goal to see that his plan does not come to fruition.
And finally, you each see a form ahead. Something appears. A dark silhouette clinging unnaturally to one of the column supports in the cistern ahead. You see this figure. Not all of it. You just see something against the light in the back. It seems you mean not to kill me after all.
Correct.
It never crossed our minds.
He watches each of you in turn. What is Simon doing during this time? How is he reacting to all of this?
Well, when he sort of makes himself visible, his eyes drift up that way. Then he looks him face to face, Nosferatu to Nosferatu. He's not defiant so much as resigned. There is no fear in his face anyway. This creature is going to do with him what he will.
Harper stares at you for some time, Tito, before you see in the distance the bobbing of a head like a nodding. Yes. So very kind of you, Tito. So very kind to spare my life. And yet, so very dangerous. So very dangerous for you. Isemaki tu vadik inioliusu. And you recall something on that page, the Greek writing and its message. The allies of Vadik are all around you. And at that you see him reach into somewhere and let a scroll fall into the water where it sits and floats.
Lovely.
Your last test, your last mistake. This is where you die. This is where your service to Vodic ends, Tito Vega.
Service?
That snaps Simon out of his reverie, and he looks at Tito confused.
Don't be confused. He simply means the task I was performing for him. Either way, we must prepare for combat now.
Oh, lovely.
Harper emits a shrill screech which pierces your ears, each of you, and after a few moments' delay, there is a distant echo, a cacophony of screeches that answers from the depths, from somewhere more distant. And something changes, something becomes clear. You, looking around, see them, a trickle at first, and then a steady stream of something coming down from the holes in the higher arced corners of the cistern, writhing and wriggling and making this horrible squeal that is beginning to grow louder. They seem to be coming from everywhere all at once, from each of the corners, and quickly it becomes apparent that thousands of rats are filling this chamber. How are each of you responding as you see this chamber being filled with rats from all around?
Tito is looking around, slightly amused at the amount of rats there are.
You realize these are not normal rats. They are larger than you've seen, larger than they should be, and there are so many of them.
Michael will cock an eye at Simon. And this is why one calls cats.
How sharp are those claws of yours?
Sharp enough.
To get through metal?
No, but stone. And Michael will pop his claws back out, tasting another blood.
I'll spare you the blood. You can keep it out. I gave you that for the scene, so you can retract it and extend it.
Fair enough. That works.
Surely there must be some agreement we can reach, Harper.
No, he works for Vespucci.
You see Harper point to you and screech again as these rats are forming up into this swarm, this conglomeration that's thick, and it's moving as a mass toward you. Roll initiative. Okay. So Harper, being first to act, and just a little bit faster than you, Simon. He's still clinging to this wall, but he's calling out to you. He's speaking directly to you, and you can feel something in his words. So he's speaking to you, and you immediately feel something come over you, like an apathy. Everyone around you dies. Believe, Simon. It's your curse. You know it in your heart. Where art thou, Grey Rat? Where art thou, Quentin? Where art thou, Rose? You feel something is happening to you. Something is subduing you. You're feeling less and less active. You still have all of your full capacity, but you feel like he's whittling away at something in you. And And we turn to Simon as he's being subjected to these words and feeling something come over him, and his beast as well. It's being quieted and calmed into this submission. How does Simon react to this, and what does he do?
He who's done this to others a few times has never felt it done to himself. And he doesn't like it, not in the least. Well, if he could care enough not to like it. It's an uphill battle now, as the beast is lulled into slumber.
Stop it, Harper. We can still walk out of this.
But he will draw his knife.
Alright, and you see the rat swarm is coming for the group of you. Of course, you're all kind of grouped up here at the entrance, but it looks like, if you can tell which it's going for, it looks like it's heading in the direction of Michael, although it's a swarm, so it's not exactly easy to tell.
I'll delay the swarm.
Michael, try to get through those bars.
How high up is Harper?
He's probably about 15 feet up on the ground. It's actually kind of impressive. There's not much handholds up there.
Kind of gun shy about trying to jump. So Michael grumbles a bit and turns towards the bars and starts trying to chip through the stone that they're set in.
Alright, chipping at stone is not going to be an easy task.
Well, neither is chipping at metal.
Brodian specifically says, able to rend flesh with ease and even carve stone and metal with little trouble.
True story.
Alright, fair enough. You can definitely work on this. It's just not going to be an immediate task.
No.
So I'll give you a strength brawl, difficulty 8 for stone, for just sheer stone. You're gonna need an extended roll for this to break out enough stone for them to escape, for you all to escape.
Well, I'm just trying to chip away enough stone to dislodge the bars. Unless they're like 10-foot long bars.
You're not sure yet, but you have your strength brawl roll. You can start working on it. Nothing yet. The stone is difficult to pierce, even with your strength and your claws. What did Simon do during his turn?
Oh, actually he intends to throw the knife at Harper.
Okay. Go ahead and make your dexterity athletics roll. It'll be standard difficulty. Alright, it's going to connect. Roll your strength plus your extra successes plus 2. Alright.
He knows it's not really going to do much. It's just sort of his last-ditch rebellion.
You see the knife stick into him the way you'd think an arrow would stick into a target. You hear the sound and you hear even a wince, but you don't see any movement from Harper. You just hear a hiss from the distance, but it's difficult to hear even as the rats grow closer. Tito, you are next up as you see that these rats are about to swarm on top of you, that Michael's trying to work on an exit, and Simon has thrown a knife, a dagger, perhaps in vain, towards Harper.
Right in front of the rat swarm, Tito will summon Nocturne.
Alright. That is going to be Manipulation Occult, difficulty 7. Alright, that's gonna definitely succeed.
So that's 50 feet of Nocturne.
Yeah.
Or actually maybe 40 feet. Yeah.
The rest of you see this huge blackness just manifest, this sphere of darkness in front of Tito out in the cistern, in front of this group of rats. And it just expands. It encompasses more of the cistern than you can even see from where you are in the tunnel. Just reading over a couple of things here. Okay. Let me check some stats here. Okay. So the rats swarm moving unknowingly into this black cloud. A large amount of them get captured. A lot of them get stuck in this nocturne that you've created. And you think you've taken out more than half of them in this. At least half of them are covered in this giant sphere of darkness. The other half seems to be moving around, but the rest of these, the ones you've captured, they seem to be struggling. You see, you hear a sudden silence as the intensity of their screeches gets cut in half, and many of these just disappear. The other two of you can't even see what happened to them. Harper hisses, and he sees what happens to these rats. And he stops. He turns instead to Tito. This is to be your grave, Tito. You have failed, and this is where you will die. This is where Vodic will succeed in your failure. You are not needed for what is to be accomplished. Give in. Your tricks, your sorcery will not save you here. And with that, he will roll on Tito. You are almost cowed by these words. For some reason, they're just words, but for some reason, something inside you, Tito, is reacting to them. Your beast suddenly quiets. Whatever control you had on it, it is unnecessary. You can barely feel the beast. You feel this weakness, this frailty, this lethargy just burden you like nothing has burdened you, and you feel your concentration lapse. The nocturne collapses, and you see about half of these rats float, squirming, while the other half are moving around as the nocturne is dissipating. We move to Simon, who is feeling a similar lethargy, though you still feel like you have the ability to act.
Alright. Simon is going to go try to help with these bars. There's nothing else he can do. He can't get under the rats under the water, right? They're like swarming through it.
You wanted to get past the rats to get to like where under the water, like into the reservoir?
Yes.
Think you still have time to do that as they're closing in, but it's going to be difficult. It would require Dex Athletics to make it in without them getting on top of you or jumping into them.
I mean, do I know that it's a possible way out? Would I?
A way out from the cistern?
There's no way out, right?
The only way out that you see currently, because a lot of these columns are blocking your view, you only see one exit, and that's the one behind you. Of course, what's beyond, you're not sure.
He looks to the bars and then looks to the water. Alright, he's gonna dive into the water.
Alright.
Dex plus athletics difficulty what?
I will give you a difficulty 7 to dive into the water in this narrow gap where the rats have not yet amassed and crawled on over each other to get to you.
Oh god.
You do it just barely. You can feel some of the fur and tails as you're diving in. It's very close as you dive in, and you realize the cistern doesn't go down very far. It only goes down about 4 or 5 feet, but it's enough for you to get past this swarm of rats, and you realize just how big it is when you get beneath it. Where's Simon going?
Down, down, down. Rats cannot breathe water.
No, they cannot. Alright, are you doing anything else in this few seconds besides going deep in the water?
He's hoping that Tito can handle this, but he doesn't know that he's been subsumed.
Alright. Michael, we go back to you as you see that Tito is making some kind of sphere of darkness that captured many of the rats, but then Harper did something. He said something, and Tito's concentration lapsed, and this darkness collapsed. And the swarm is coming again. Although not as many now.
Fair enough. But now the focus is off of him. And Simon's gone missing.
Mm-hmm. Simon jumped into the water. You heard a splash.
So... You said he's 15 feet up. About how far from the platform we were standing?
Let's say less than 10 meters.
10 meters?
Mm-hmm. Like 30 feet, maybe a little bit less.
Fuck. He's way out there. So...
I could tell you out of game that it would probably be about 5 successes worth of your work on the stone to make enough of a gap to slip through. Michael could judge that.
That's a long fucking time. So here's what I want to do. I want to run towards where Harper's at, and I want to try and leap at the pillar at least, if not at him. If I can get the height and the distance, I'm going to come at him claws out, like, and try and dig them into him. He's over water, right?
Yes.
Okay, so even if I fail or don't get the distance, I'm just landing in water, and I can climb up the fucking pillar he's on.
Mm-hmm. So you're shooting for a jumping leap, claws out to basically make a leap attack towards Harper.
Right.
Okay.
The jump itself is, I know it's a difficulty 3 because it's just jumping.
Yeah, kind of. I've been kind of modifying that because if you want to do a straight jump and just clear distance, it quickly becomes like you can just jump 10 feet. It's like 6 successes. So I've been making it maneuvers at higher difficulty with only 1 success. So I would say if you want to clear that, you could do a Dex Athletics difficulty 8 to just clear that distance in 1 success. And then after that I'll give you an attack roll if you succeed at that.
Difficulty 8 has not been my friend tonight, so I'm going to spend a willpower for this.
Okay. Alright, you're gonna make it this time. On this difficulty 8 roll, you got 2 successes with your willpower. So you are gonna have this chance for an attack. Go ahead and roll your... You're just going for like a claw attack?
Yep.
Alright, strength brawl. Standard difficulty.
Dex brawl?
Sorry, yeah, dex brawl.
Not that it matters. Really?
That is a botch. Your jump was successful. You got the distance, you judged it right. You made this jump, and right when you were going for this attack, your hand came out just a little bit too quick, and you caught one of the other columns, and it spun you around, and you landed not in the water, but on one of these other platforms, these raised platforms. It rises out of the water, and you've fallen basically onto your back on one of these platforms. We move to Tito, as you see, and you feel this weight. You feel something overpowering you. It's a fatigue like you've not felt. It's the opposite of a frenzy. Like you can't summon the will to act. And this does not help you as you are already very exhausted from your transformation. But you see that Michael has made this jump and he made this attack, but it backfired and he's fallen on his back on all these stone platforms, and Simon seems to have disappeared beneath the water. What do you do?
So the effects of the ability that was used, does Tito find it completely unable to focus enough to use any abilities?
You still can for now, but you suspect if this goes on any longer, you won't even want to stand anymore, much less fight.
Tito will reflexively spend some blood on stamina. .2 points. And he will look towards Harper, and he will summon the arms of Ahriman upon him.
Alright. That's going to be manipulation occult, difficulty 7. Actually, let me think about the. According to what I've written down, it has to be within 20 feet of the caster, and you are too far away from that. But I'm not going to make that impossible. I'm just going to increase the difficulty. It'll be difficulty 8. You're stretching your abilities beyond what you're used to.
Okay. Tito will go ahead and spend the willpower on this.
Okay. Alright, you succeed. 3 of these tentacles come out. You stretch beyond, and you call the abyss farther than you ever have before, and it answers. And you see that 3 of these tentacles have come out from the shadows on the side, away from whatever light this is, just around Harper.
And the goal of these tentacles will be to slam into, 2 of them will slam into Harper's arms, intent on dislodging him from the ceiling, or where he's climbing right now.
All right. They act in concerts. They do.
Oh, they do everything. Okay, yeah. So all of them are just knocking him off this high area.
Okay. Tentacles don't have brawl, do they?
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe so. I think it's all based on, or their strength is on your tenebration. Okay, but all 3 of them are acting in concert, so this is gonna work out a little bit better. And because he's not like moving, he's kind of stuck in place, just sitting attached to this column, a lower difficulty for these things. So these things are definitely going to get him and hit him pretty hard. But it's bashing, so he's going to be able to soak quite a bit of this. Alright, so a net of 4, and then bashing gets halved, so 2 bashing. Harper gets knocked by these tentacles in the moments that they are appearing, and you hear this raspy yelp as he is knocked out and falls into the water beneath, having taken 2 bashing. Now the rat swarm has reached you, Tito, and they just pile on top of you as soon as you get this off. They just converge on you like a tidal wave or some kind of cascade of this wriggling mass. And the way this works is, now that they are on top of you, they'll be rolling damage, which you can soak against. so I will roll the damage. Alright, they're biting into you pretty hard. Roll your soak. Alright, you're able to soak all of that despite all the bites, and they're all over on top of you. You can't even see the light from the back of the cistern anymore. And they do knock you down, since they did at least 3 damage before soak, but you don't take any damage in the end. So you're knocked down, and you know this is going to get worse, not better, now that they have you down. For the moment, you haven't taken any damage, but you know that this is not a good situation to be in. Harper is recovering from a fall, having been knocked into the water, so he's spending that time getting back up. They move back to Simon. As you are underneath the water, the rats have moved past you, probably onto Tito, and as you're underwater, you see Harper. He's actually fallen into the water, to your surprise.
This is perfect. Simon moves forward to bite him.
Alright, to get a bite, you will need to finish Strength, Brawl, Grapple on him. So roll your Strength Brawl
Oh, that's ugly.
to get him in the grapple. Unless you want to do something different.
Oh no, I'm still doing it because I said I was, but I'm gonna spend some blood.
You can do that.
Alright, strength ball grapple, here we go. I might be able to distract him at least. Difficulty on that roll?
It is going to be... Let's see, you're going to get an advantage of some kind since he just fell in the water and he's disoriented. I will give you standard difficulty. He's going to be resisting at a harder difficulty. You got him. You know, you can feel that he's strong, but you've got him right from behind. You get a really good position just as he falls. He almost falls in preparation for your grapple, and you get a solid grasp on him.
Alright, so I'll have to wait till next turn to bite, but I got him.
Yes. Alright, turning to Michael. You are on your back on this platform, so you can either spend the turn getting up or roll your dex athletics to get back up and do a turn the same turn.
Can I just roll into the water? Since that's where the guy is? Or do you want me to roll dex athletics for that?
What are you hoping to do?
Well, I'll do the dex athletics. Then I'll explain what I'm doing.
Okay. Yeah, you're up and about. You can do whatever you want. You're ready to act again.
Can I still see Harper? Like, is his head above water?
No, he's underwater wherever he went. I mean, you see the ripple of the water where he entered, though.
So, Michael's going to dive into the water, like a diver, hands out, approximately where Harper was, and try and, like, spear into him. Claws out.
Okay. You already got your dex athletics roll, so I'll just give you that. You get a fair enough dive into the water. It's not that far, actually. You were fortunate to land where he fell. So you dive into the water, and you see underneath. It's difficult because the light is very low, but your eyes are allowing you to see better. That Simon actually has him in a grapple.
Cool. Yeah. Still gonna stab him with claws and try to fuck him up while Simon has him in a grapple.
Okay. That's going to be a standard dex brawl for a strike, and it's going to be difficulty 4 since he's grappled. Yeah, it's going to connect. Roll your damage.
Really?
That's unfortunate. You connect, but maybe you're getting close enough to get this attack in, and it's awkward with him moving around. You have a clear shot, but it's underwater, and it's not ideal. You're not actually able to do any real damage except by tear at his clothes into this water. Tito, you are engulfed in a swarm of rats, and you feel that you can't even move very far, and that they're probably going to bite down even harder this time. It's gonna get more and more dangerous to be under this swarm. What do you do?
Tito does all that he can do. He'll summon up all his concentration and drop Nocturne on top of himself and these rats.
Alright. I will give you that roll. A manipulation occult. But again, because they're on top of you and because you feel this lethargy, whatever Harper did to you, it's going to be harder. It's going to be difficulty 8. You're going to pull it off, though. It looks like you got one success, so it's going to expand on top of you. And you do capture these things, this mass, or at least a good amount of these rats as they're on top of you. You disappear into a sphere of darkness that expands outward. And this swarm is not going to act, as most of them, at least a good number of them, got caught in this thing. And a lot of them are actually dispersing, trying to escape it. So the rat swarm, look at their stats again. Alright. Yeah, the rat swarm is not any immediate danger to you right now. You've caught them in this darkness, and so they're dispersing. They're trying to get out. They're not attacking you. Harper is trying to get out of this grapple. And it's just pure strength at this point.
This will not go well for Simon.
And roll your strength to hold him back.
Maybe it will. Let's see.
Yeah, it goes to defender. You keep him just barely. You still got a grasp on him, and that means that you can spend this turn biting down on him.
He's not bringing him into the kiss, I should note. He is ripping into him.
Alright.
So Dex plus Brawl plus 1, it looks like?
I don't know if there's actually a roll for biting once you have him in a clinch, because you've already got him.
Okay.
It's Dex plus Brawl versus 6. I think. It might be 7.
Page 346 is what I'm looking at. Dex plus Brawl plus 1, once you have a clinch.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
Okay, roll it out.
Nice.
I reroll at 10. Yeah, you've got 4 successes on your attack. Roll your damage.
Alright, strength plus 1 plus extra successes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
aggravated.
Yeah, reroll at 10. Still, 4 successes in aggravated, and he already had 2 in bashing. That puts him at crippled. He's doing very badly at this point. So you describe Simon as he's biting in, as he's getting Harper down.
All right, Simon has his arms and legs wrapped around Harper's front. He's on the back, almost like some kind of horrible, ugly little monkey who's ripping into Harper's shoulder, tearing apart the meat and filling the cistern's water with his blood, which he can taste, and the taste is sweet. He looks almost delighted.
You gouge out a good chunk of Harper as you bite down, and you can feel the weakness growing in him as you've bitten into him. Michael, it's your turn. You see that although your attack didn't seem that successful, Simon got his own bite in, and Harper just lost a large amount of his back and back neck to Simon as he just rips through him. What does Michael do?
Michael's going to try the same thing over again and try and claw down his front, obviously avoiding Simon's actual arms.
All right. Same attack, difficulty 4. That's 6 successes. Roll your damage.
If you don't get any this time, I'm logging off.
Same. I'm just going to give up on World of Darkness.
All right, you slash through him, and Simon, in your arms, you feel Harper collapse into bloody viscera and ash as this strike goes through. Harper is destroyed, and with the rat swarm dispersing from Tito, the combat has ended as the group of you reorient yourselves. And at that, I think we will take a break since it is 7:55, and we will come back in 10 minutes.
What a place to take a break!
Isn't it?
Okay.
You have all the time in the world to chat about all of that. When we get back.
Fuck!
Yeah.
Jesus God, I thought we were dead.
Yeah, I thought so too.
For sure.
I fucking hate Roll20.
Oh, that was some clutch shit though. Tito saved our bacon.
Yeah, Nocturne's some powerful shit against things that need to breathe.
We're just knocking his ass down off of that like some kind of ugly fly.
That too.
Here, take the arms of Ermon.
Yeah, Tito's not fucking around.
Thankfully,
why
Bukar allowed that to happen.
What allowed him getting knocked down?
Yeah, the extra range.
Yeah, I thought, I don't like saying just like, oh, well, it's beyond 20 feet, fuck you. It's like, no, it's going to be harder. But what's to be 20 and 21 feet, 30 feet, so. All right, I need a break. I'll be right back.
All right, I'll be back.
Fuck Roll20 dice, just for the record.
I hate you.
Did you say I hate you, or?
No, I said it hates you.
I thought you said you hated me. I was like, okay.
Tito's definitely going to be irate because you just killed.
Nonplussed, yeah.
Yeah.
But, like I said, his justification here is the Motherfucker was about to kill all of us.
Hierarchy of sin's greater, as you put it.
Power of boners is stronger. Michael's thought process is basically, look, the fucker was going to kill us all. It was him or us. Go report that to Mr. Vespucci, if you like.
Oh, Tito, be prepared for that response.
Jack will be pissed. Tristan will understand, given circumstances. But Jack will be pissed.
Ooh, boy.
Yeah, for a second there, I thought it was going to be like a TPK.
A little bit of pee came out of me.
There's just Tito, or Shadow and I were talking while you guys were away from keyboard. Jack's going to be pissed.
Fuck Jack!
That was my thinking.
Dude almost killed us.
Tristan will understand, given circumstances, but Jack's going to be pissed.
Especially if the scroll's not completely ruined.
Yeah.
Which, frankly, it has every right to be.
Well, that scroll is something, I suppose.
But
Yep.
the rat's rolled over it, it's been in the water, it's probably shreds.
Still worth recovering.
And Simon is once again involved in a scandal. He just seems to find these things.
Well, as far as anyone else knows, Harper's persona non grata.
At the very least, oh, yeah. The scroll will have to do.
So, obviously we have to tell Tristan, because he was specifically trying to find Harper,
I'm glad he didn't find Harper by himself, because Tristan would have been toasted.
right?
Elder or not, obviously, so was Harper.
Home turf advantage with thousands of rats.
I for good or bad, I never considered what Nocturne would do to rats until you use it. And I was like, oh, that's gonna destroy them.
That's why Tito was slightly amused when he saw the rats.
Because rat swarms can only generally take one lethal a turn, no matter how much damage you do. But Nocturne is just a big ball of you can't breathe.
I can just see, like, rat bodies blubbing to the surface. It amused me.
Yeah, I was like, well, with a 50-foot diameter, he just took out half the rats. And this is not as threatening as anymore.
Hey, Harper, suck it.
Well, it's not like I'm designing these things intentionally trying to kill you guys.
Jesus God, Nosferatus are scary. They did a good job with that in the Bloodlines game, too.
Yeah.
Like when you fight that Nosferatu involved in the plague epidemic thing.
Yeah.
Pretty scary.
Yep.
Song of Serenity is scary. If he had gotten one more success on Tito wouldn't have been able to do anything.
I know. And he was pretty close on me, I think, too.
Yeah, he got about halfway. That's why I thought you guys were going to die.
Just one dice away from death. Feels good, man.
Though, you could roll to resist every scene, or, well,
Yeah,
once
so
a scene.
sane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes.
once a scene. So you get one roll in that fight.
Tito's willpower is not that high right now.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like, yo, you'd have like One chance.
He would have been perfectly fine if he was able to refresh himself. I can't believe it. Tito got out of a fight without taking any damage. That is the true victory right there.
I'll manage that.
Oh, it was so scary too when he's like, "You think you could talk to my rats?" Simon's like, "Shit,
Meep.
no, daddy."
Well, I guess we're all here. You want to get back into it?
Sure enough.
I'm ready.
Okay. All right, turning back to the group of you. Tito, you're getting back up as the Nocturne has succeeded, and you see what rats do remain, as large as they are scurrying away, running into different holes in the cistern. They seem to be fleeing, screeching at something. They screeched all at once and then fled in different directions. Simon and Quinn... No, sorry. My bad. Simon and Michael, you two are surfacing in the water amidst the ashy remains of Harper. And you see that it looks like many rats have disappeared. You're seeing the last few of them scurry away, but a good number of them lie dead, floating atop the water. Some are up on the entranceway. It seemed a great number died to something, perhaps this darkness that Tito conjured. And you see that amidst the ashen remains that float atop the water sloshing back and forth, you see the scroll that Harper had dropped, soaked and muddied and very much marked up. It sits there. What do we do? What do we see when we turn to the rest of you?
Michael is going to swim to the ledge and pick up the scroll. Even if it looks tore up, it might be recoverable.
Simon bobs to the surface soon after, looking quite pleased with himself.
Well, we found him.
I should have expected a trap like this.
We did.
I believe Simon and I both suggested it.
Simon pulls off his boots and pours the water out of them.
Lovely.
Tito looks at the corpse of Harper with a frown. Did you really have to kill him?
Well, if it offends your delicate sensibilities, you can go ahead and explain to whomever you like that it was him or us.
It's not the main point. He was a very useful font of information.
Do you really think he was even vaguely entertaining the idea of cooperating at all?
There are ways to make kindred talk.
Aye, you were going to dominate an elder. Good luck with that.
They are older than me, but the point is moot.
That would have meant trying somehow to subdue a creature bent on ending us.
Yes, what's done is done. At least we come from this victorious.
I'll explain it to Jack. He might take the news a bit less dramatically.
Might be
Let's see.
best to leave my name out of it.
Fair enough.
What state is the scroll in?
Michael will unfurl it as much as he can to see if there's anything left to be discernible as writing.
Most of the writing is gone or blurred heavily, but one thing remains. It's a symbol of simple shapes connected together in a particular order. Doesn't really mean anything to you.
Tito will take a look at it. Does he recognize the shape at all?
You do. It's the same symbol that you saw on the scroll that Marco Vespucci gave you.
It's something. Tito looks at the ashy remains. Is there any... I know it all decays quite quickly, especially depending on age, but is there any, like, trophy or anything, like, remains that could be shown as proof?
There's a skull. There are bones. There's ash. You think maybe the skull might be usable as a trophy.
And so we'll do. Tito will walk up and pick up the skull.
Well, it's floating in the water, so I imagine you have to go back.
Well, yeah. Okay. Tito will swim into the water and the nasty cistern water and pick up the skull.
You take it, getting a good amount of these grimy ashen remains kind of on you, but you have this skull. The skull of Harper.
Well then, now that this has been met with success, I think we should find places to sleep for the night.
We'll certainly be safe here.
It's not like any kind will be coming through them. And he points at the grate.
Aye, good point.
Are there any rats still alive nearby?
You don't see any, no?
No, they've already all scattered off.
Mm-hmm.
Would I know whether or not animalism's control faded after the user is dead?
I think you would.
So Michael's going to try and summon the rats back.
Sure. It's a charisma survival difficulty 6.
Simon watches Michael with a look that says, "Oh, that's cute."
Let's see here.
I do love those ones.
A single rat pokes its head out of this hole, and you hear it scurrying around. It's at the edge of the platform near where you came out, and it stops at the edge by the water, looking out to you.
So, rats are only good for a quarter blood point. Michael's going to have himself a little conversation with this fellow. See if he can't divine how Harper came and went.
Sure. Manipulation, I assume you're using Whispers of the Wild?
Yep.
So, manipulation animal can... let's see... There's like varying difficulties for different kinds of animals, right? Like
So-
different predators.
Base is 6. He is going to squeak at the rat while he does this, of course. So
We'll
that
put it
drops
at
to
5. Yeah, we'll put it at 5. After your modification for squeaking. Yeah, you seem to have caught its attention. What are you saying to it?
Basically just trying to get it to convey to him how the creature it served came and went from this particular area.
It squeaks and squeals back to you in this high-pitched sound that makes no sense to Tito, at least. But you roughly get from this rat that Harper came and went from, let me think, has very simple intelligence, so has very simple ways of thinking.
Mostly it would be a series of images more than anything else.
It basically conveys to you front way and back way.
Show me the back way.
It tells you it can't get across water to back way. And it kind of points its head behind you further into the cistern.
Did the platforms provide a walking route?
No, they're separated by water and then sit as like islands.
Okay, so Michael's going to tell it to hold still on his head, put it on his head, and go for a swim.
Because you got 6 successes, it's gonna trust you enough to hop on your head, and it kind of points you and guides you very crudely in the direction. And you realize that as you reach the end of the cistern and you see you're getting closer to the source of light, you see an ensconced torch, and behind some of these columns, which was previously hidden, you see what looks like a passage, but not like the passages you've come from. It's different. It's not circular like a tunnel. It's more like a hallway passage, rectangular, unusual for the sewers.
Like something someone constructed a long time ago.
Or very recently. One or the other.
So Michael's going to call back towards the others before he goes in. Is there a platform nearby that he could come out of the water?
Yes.
So he's going to step out of the water and wait for his associates to join him.
But I just dried out my boots.
Cry about it later.
Show off.
He grumbles as he climbs back into the water and swims over.
Tito frowns, but climbs into the water as well.
Alright, the two of you swim across. You make your way to this platform, and you two see the ensconced torch and the passage beyond. You also see what looks like a very simple lever mechanism not far into this passage, and you see similar holes in a similar fashion. You suspect perhaps this is another gate that might have been used at some point.
Well then.
Looks as though it wasn't a trigger at all.
I would say on this side you can also see one of these back platforms. There's a pile of what looks like corpses and skeletons, a few dead rats. It looks like perhaps this is what the source of the scent was. I would turn to Simon as he's seeing all this. What's Simon doing? How is he reacting?
It's always been odd to me. My kind living in such filth. I never wanted that for myself.
Suppose some would imagine it to be a bit of penance.
tenants.
I don't describe to such fanciful notions myself. We are what we are. But it stands to reason that some might think they deserve to suffer.
Well, if anyone deserves to suffer, it's that piece of shite.
Be that as it may, I wonder if maybe that lever releases the other great. Perhaps nearby we might find something of Harper's to shore up our stories.
We have a short while before dawn. Let's have a look around.
Let's.
At the very least, it's a damn sight more comfortable than the middle of a stinking sewer. And Michael will lead the way in.
So you're going into
Because-
the passage or exploring the cistern?
Into the passage.
Okay. Hey, did you say you were pulling on the lever, or...
Ooh.
Okay. You begin walking down this passage beyond the ensconced torch, and let's see here. You see a single path that continues on for a while and opens up into something of a chamber that you have to imagine was perhaps where Harper slept. There's a few odds and ends here. There's like a simple cot strung up. There's a table, interestingly enough. Bit of cloth kind of strewn around. It actually reminds you, Simon, a lot of the meeting place that Tristan often held. A lot of various items spread around.
Michael's going to be nosy and pick through everything.
And Tito will look around, showing any interest towards documents.
Let me review my notes. What is Simon doing as he's poking around in here?
Simon's poking around too. Now that Harper's dead, he feels no need to keep his items sacred. Especially if there's evidence.
Exactly.
I'll have each of you do a perception investigation roll, standard difficulty. You find each of you, mostly the most interesting thing here is what does look like a few scattered documents that you come across. By and large, most of them are very old. The dates are fairly old. They're convergences or correspondences between Harper and Tristan and a few others. They look like just relaying of information. There's nothing extremely, damning. Mostly you notice that anything between Harper and anyone stops around 3 years ago. You don't see any dates beyond that. After that, the only letters you find... Really, you only find one letter that's after that date. And it's right on the front. It's right under a few papers right in the center of the table. And it's not signed by anyone, but it does seem to have instructions. And Tito, as you're looking this over, as you're all looking this over, but to Tito in particular, you read this letter, and it describes instructions to await you, more or less. And it's apparently some kind of test that you were being put on or put through, and that he was to anticipate your arrival at some point. Again, it's not signed, but the verbiage and the description, you suspect heavily that this is some kind of signal that Harper was supposed to wait for you to try and kill him, or in some way stop others from detaining him, and that if you cited correctly, you would be handed a scroll, and if you did not, that you had to die. That's what you gather from reading all this.
Does the writing match previous scrolls, like the writing style?
Yes, it does. I would say you've read enough of Marco's papers by now. You'd recognize that pretty quickly.
Tito was satisfied with this. This scroll here, this will serve as useful proof.
Can I still communicate with the rat, or has too much time passed?
It left after you kind of got into your screwed off.
Fair enough. That's totally fair. Michael is going to look for a second exit.
You see
not back into the cistern, somewhere out.
Right. I would say this opens up, but it's really just like an enlargement of a hallway. It grows narrow again as it continues on.
So, given that there's still some time before dawn, Michael's going to kind of see if he can't see where this goes.
Absolutely. It continues on into the darkness. You see the dim reflection off of old stone that there are probably ensconced torches further in, but it curves around corners, and you see it goes for quite a ways, and it's getting a bit narrow, and you realize that the old stone that you had been entering, that you'd been in Harper's Chambers, that might have actually been even Roman in origin, but clearly with some modifications. But the stone you're walking through now looks new. There's not as much crumbling at the corners. You see that it looks perhaps relatively... It's different in the stonework, and it seems to be reinforced with wooden archway supports. It's definitely... It looks unplanned. It does not look like Roman architecture or the more, the rest of the tunnels. It's something different.
Something that a scatterbrained Nosferatu might have done on a whim.
Mostly it just doesn't look like part of the original waterway designed by either the Romans or the more recent upgrades.
So, do I ever find the other end of this windy tunnel?
First, I'll ask, is anybody going with him? Are the two of you waiting behind? Or what does Simon and Tito do?
Yeah, if we're done poking through his belongings, Simon will follow.
Yeah, may as well see where this goes.
Alright. It continues on, and the three of you make your way through the stonework, each of you noting it's a bit different than what you've been walking, until you do find the terminus, you do find the end of the passage. It's very odd. It's sealed by a large circular wall that embeds into the earthen tunnel you've been walking. It appears to be made of heavy, crude iron forged into shape, and it bears these semicircular dials across the surface. Look like maybe gears. You see some inscriptions at the edge of the teeth.
Now, what do you suppose this is?
So can I roll intelligence plus survival to kind of gauge where we are in relation to the rest of the city?
Let me think.
I know we've been meandering about in various different directions and whatnot all night. So...
Yeah, I'll give you an intelligence survival roll. but just based on the winding of this tunnels, and you weren't even sure like where those eastern waterways ended, it's gonna be pretty rough. So I'll give you difficulty 8 to get an idea.
That's kind of what I expected.
I did surprisingly well. You can reroll at 10. Now 4 successes. You've got a pretty decent idea of where you are. You think that all of your meandering underground has put you still think you're underneath somewhere in the city walls of London. And you still believe that you're still on the eastern side. Let me think.
I'd say 4 successes. I should get a little more specific than east side of London.
Let me think.
Should narrow it down to at least the district.
Yeah, give me 1 sec to look up the districts again, because I have them in my notes.
Sure.
Okay. You are in a district called Bishopsgate, you believe. You've narrowed it down that much. It's in the northern eastern part of the London city, behind the walls. I'd say that's as specific as you can get with knowing nothing else except like how many turns you've made and about how far you've gone.
You said it was called what?
Bishopsgate. It's a ward of London.
We're in. Michael stands there pondering, looking like he's mapping out how they got here and from where. Kind of retracing their steps based on where they came in at and the turns they've taken. It takes him a few minutes. He looks up at the ceiling and then down at his compatriots. We're under Bishopsgate. Could this be St. Augustine's?
What are you thinking, Michael?
Isn't St. Augustine's inside the Toreador domain?
I wouldn't know.
Tito thinks, is this the known domain of the Toreador?
Let me double check my notes and then I'll look at your sheet really quick. I want to make sure I'm giving you the right information here. Haven't had to look up wards in a while. Alright. Scratch what I said, it's not Bishopsgate. It's a ward called Farringdon Within. It is the Toreador domain. It's also actually the same ward. It shares Toreador domain and Lasombra domain, coincidentally. Was there another question I didn't answer?
I think that was it.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I would imagine there's not enough time to get around the city right now, so probably should head back into the tunnels and sleep.
I don't disagree with you, but I'd feel a damn sight better if I had my animals.
There's no time. Dawn is approaching.
No shite. Well, we'll likely be dead come dawn then. Pleasant dreams. And Michael will walk back to the wider chamber and flop down on the cot.
And what does Simon and Tito do?
Simon follows, but when he sees him flop down on the cot, he rolls his eyes.
Why do you get the cot?
Claws, dear. Claws.
That satisfies him, and he'll find a spot in the corner.
You know, I do think I should get the cot after my performance in this battle. What do you say?
You drowned some rats.
And I happened to knock Harper into the water. Of course, I saw that failed leap. It was quite spectacular.
The leap didn't fail. Striking the man failed. It's an important distinction.
Sure. But I think it remains. I should take the cot.
Quentin cocks his head a bit. Or Michael, I blame you. Michael cocks his head a bit. Oh, do you? Then you'd like to explain to Jack yourself why the man you were meant to bring in for questioning is dead. I've no idea what happened, Jack. I watched him go mad. And Michael just kind of pins him with very dead and unfeeling eyes. You've seen how he's been acting of late. His beast is right there at the surface.
Well then.
And his expression just says, is it really worth it?
Not that your threat has any sway with me, but it is not worth it.
Threat? No, not a threat. I simply don't want to sleep on the fucking ground.
Says the gangrel.
Simon chuckles from his corner.
Isn't that what your clan is known for?
Yes, my clan's not known for sleeping in shite either, but you don't see me mocking the Nosferatu for it.
And Tito looks around in the room. Is there only... Oh, is there like any desk? Anything like that?
There is a wooden desk, but there's only one cot.
Tito just walk over to the desk, just knock everything off, and then lay on it.
It's only about, 3 feet across. There's not much to lay on.
At this point, Tito doesn't care.
Alright, the group of you sit down for the coming dawn.
I think so. No one else has anything else to do.
Alright. So you lay across this small table. Limbs kind of dangle. It really only holds your torso. And eventually dawn comes and pulls you all into slumber. We move on as the day passes, and eventually you each all rise again the next evening. Apparently nothing happened during the day. Each of you mark off a blood point as you rise for the following day. Tito, you feel the beast is active in you tonight, right now, given all you've spent and given how fatigued you are. It's back, it's raging beneath the surface, and you haven't yet fully mastered this new path, this new code. You have limited control over it, and you know that. So as you wake, you feel it at the back of your mind, clawing.
Congratulations. We're not dead. Now let's fuck off.
I'll take the lead.
Michael's going to make sure to, if it's not already in someone's pocket or what have you, he's going to make sure that any and all parchments. Actually, he's just going to go ahead and collect all of the correspondence and put it into his satchel, which he will then carry over his head so it's out of the water.
Tito make sure he takes Harper's skull with him.
Alright. And I should have mentioned before, really, Tito was the only one who could read that. I don't think either of you have literacy. But, I mean, you would have recognized the importance of letters, so I'm not... I mean, you can put it in the satchel, that's fine.
Michael definitely has academics 1, which is sufficient for literacy.
You have to take it as a merit, though.
What?
Yeah. You do
Different
need
rules in
academics
Dark
1,
Ages.
but you need to take literacy, otherwise it's assumed you're illiterate. Not that you wouldn't be able to recognize a letter if you saw one.
What? Okay, no, hold on. Because Quinn had 2 in literacy, so he's illiterate? Or had 2 in academics? What?
I thought he was literate. Then that was my mistake for not catching it.
Yeah, there's a merit. It's 1 point, literacy.
Yeah, it can either be a flaw or a merit. In this game, it's a merit.
That makes zero sense.
Well, it's the Dark Ages. But, I mean, you have the letters. The 3 of you start making your way back. Of course, you realize as you get back into the cistern, you see the gate is still down.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were going out the back entrance.
The back entrance is a sealed iron wrought gate with 3 gears that look like some kind of dials embedded into it. It doesn't open when you try to push or pull.
Of course, Tito instantly turns around and heads back to the lever, or whatever mechanism was out in that earlier room.
Alright, you pulling the lever?
Yes.
Michael is going to stay by the gate.
You pull the lever and you see that metal poles come down, much like before. They come down at the edge of this passageway by the ensconced torch. It seems like it just seals off the cistern from this back passageway.
Does Michael see anything change?
You do not. The passageway you came in, it looks like that's also closed.
Fun. So there's another lever somewhere.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say it's, it wouldn't take you very long poking around, looking around. You see that there's a lever built into one of these columns right by where you see Harper probably was clung to and hidden. It's just up one of these columns.
It's up.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So Michael's going to go ahead and try and get up that column.
Did that lever like trap anyone behind anything?
Just you.
Yeah, but you would see that as you simply pulling it down, that releases it. It seems like this lever works in both directions.
Okay.
So you're not really trapped. And I'll spare the roll. I mean, after a while, Michael, you're able to make it up this column. It takes you some time getting handholds, but you're able to make it up to the lever.
And disengage it.
Yes. And doing so, you see you have released the back entrance. You are again free to go.
Let's get out of here.
I have need for a fresh set of clothes, a 3-day-long bath, and a bite.
Tito will eagerly take the lead as we step out of this place.
And what's Simon doing during this?
Simon's a little bit irritated right now with both of them, but he will follow them out.
All right. Just making for the surface straight away, as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We'll transition as the group of you make your way back out. It takes some time, almost an hour of traveling back through these sewers, which you see, at least the eastern part, is still clear of these sanitarians, much to your delight. You are able to make your way back out. The exit doesn't take nearly as long as finding the cistern. So after about an hour of traveling, you come back out, smelling quite a bit more foul than you entered. But you are back on the street side. It's still fairly early in the evening. I turn back to the three of you.
Shall we meet back at Elysium, say, in an hour?
So soon?
How long does it take you to change clothes?
I also need to feed. That battle took much out of me.
2 hours?
Yes, 2 hours works. And since Tito notices that he's in the district next to his clans, he will simply head back to the priory.
I should make a few clarifications, as I messed up on the description. When you were underground and Michael was figuring out where you all were, you were in Farringdon Within, and it was actually on the west side of London. That was my mistake. As you exit through the eastern sewers, you realize you're back on the east side of London. So apparently this passage, whatever way you went, you ended up quite a ways away, actually. So you're on the east side. You're not quite as close as you thought, but it's not that difficult to get back to the priory. Are you meaning to feed or change, or what are you doing specifically?
While Tito's making his way back, he will look for some poor soul on the way there.
Michael is going to go straight back to his makeshift haven, change into and try and find a bathhouse between here and there.
So you want to find a bathhouse to clean up in and then just head to Elysium?
Well, no, he's going to go change clothes and then go to Elysium.
Okay.
Sort of.
And Simon.
Simon needs to feed for sure. He has no clothes to change into, and he has nowhere else to go, so...
Or homeless Simon.
Yep.
Alright. Tito, you're just pulling some stranger off the street, Jack the Ripper style?
Yep.
Okay. Hunting hasn't really gotten any easier, given the state of disease plaguing the town, and the cleanse seem to be back into patrols. So this is not going to be the easiest hunting ever. Go ahead and make a... I'm assuming he's making use of dominate, as he often does, so it's really just a matter of finding someone to prey upon.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give you a perception, alertness, difficulty 8. No, you think you find opportunity and then patrols go by, city guard goes by. Avoiding the plague districts narrows your search options. You're not able to find anybody in this hour.
Well, Tito will... He's doing this on the way back to the Priory, so... He'll just head back inside.
Okay. And Simon, describe to me how you're hunting.
Simon's going to try using his Song of Serenity.
Interesting.
He never thought of it as a hunting tool before, but if he can lull someone into complacency, they can't fight him.
All right.
Now that he knows what it feels like, since he had it used against him.
Mm-hmm. Are you making use of a mask, or just hoping nobody sees you for what you are?
That is a good point. He will make use of a mask for sure.
All right. That will be your manipulation performance, difficulty 7. Oh yeah, you're able to make fine adjustments to the mask you want tonight. So you're able to masquerade as a person. Let me think. You really face the same challenge as Tito does. It's really a matter of finding the right opportunity to get one of these folks. So I'll have you do the same roll at the same difficulty, unless you don't care about feeding in the plague districts or not.
Oh, good question. No, I don't want to feed on plague victims right now.
Alright, difficulty 8.
What was the roll?
Perception alertness.
Difficulty 8.
Looking out for guards, looking out for passersby, the cleanse, finding someone alone. You succeed where Tito failed. You find a couple people over this hour that fit the bill, and with your Song of Serenity, look at it really quick. It's different against people. I think it's easier against people. Yeah, I'll give you your manipulation, empathy, difficulty 7. That's a standard roll. If you succeed on that, I'll give you both of them. To lull them into complacency, breaking their will. You do it. You have enough control tonight. You're able to soothsay these people into this apathy, this listlessness, and they don't seem to mind you bringing them away, leading them away, and feeding on them as you please. How much do you want to take from these people?
He'll take 2 from each.
Let's see if you need a frenzy check. It's pretty low. Give me a self-control roll, difficulty 6. You are quite hungry tonight. Okay, you're keeping it together. You can feed on these people without tearing them apart, and you take 2 from each. They're both...
Do either of them look strong enough for me to take 1 more?
You think so. Yeah, these people are fairly healthy, especially since you didn't take anybody from the Plague District. You could probably take a little bit more.
He'll take 1 more from each, just so he's not hungry.
Okay. The second person you draw from, they definitely have to sit down, though it's clear that they aren't really meaning to go anywhere anyway. They just look unfazed by anything passing by them, lost in thought. And you leave them that way, having gotten 5 blood points.
He actually leaves them a few coins.
They don't seem to respond. They just kind of look at you with this fatigue and boredom.
Buy yourself something to eat, he says. When you feel better.
You get no response, of course, but you leave them a few coins. They look at the coins without any real interest, and you leave them. Now you are heading to Elysium?
Yep. Since he can't really get cleaned up, he'll just have to stink.
Okay. And Michael, I'll say it's no problem for you to change your clothes, get cleaned up as you see fit in those 2 hours.
On his way back towards Elysium, I'm assuming he's not going to take him a whole 2 hours to get changed. He's going to pop into a tavern, preferably a busy one. And he's going to apply his own version of hunting.
All right, how does Michael intend to hunt as he enters a tavern?
Michael is going to flirt with the bar wench. Basically come on to her and convince her to let him, we'll say, neck a bit and then bite her neck a bit.
All right, I know there's an entire series of seduction rolls that goes through a lot.
Just boils down to manipulation, subterfuge.
I'm gonna give you appearance subterfuge. Just as one roll.
Why?
Because how attractive you are and how you come across, I think that's captured very well in appearance. Seduction, I think, is more heavily based on appearance.
It's not.
Well, in this instance, in a prolonged one, you'd go through a whole lot more. You would include manipulation. For just this, in the moment, just do appearance subterfuge.
Versus?
Difficulty here is going to be 7. Yeah, you are able to succeed over this time in finding a couple women who do pay attention to you, and when they're done serving drinks, they follow you to some dark corner of the tavern and begin necking.
A couple women?
Over the time, unless Michael only wanted to find one, I would say you could find one and then later find another in this time.
A couple works. I'm not arguing with that. It's just looking for clarification.
Yep. You're very successful. How much do you need to take from these 2 women?
So, okay, I was going to say 2, 3, yeah. If it's 2, then I'll do 2 from one and 1 from the other.
Let me see your sheet. Oh, you're fine. Yeah, that's... You're not extremely hungry or anything, so you're able to keep that under control.
He's going to make a point of being very surreptitious about where the bites are placed, and then, of course, making sure they're closed when he's done.
They just seemed enthralled with you. They love your presence.
Absolutely, they do.
So you definitely succeed. They go on their way. The one is a bit more lightheaded, and she kind of stumbles a bit as she's going back to work, but you suspect that she'll be okay.
I'll see you ladies later.
They smile and wave with each of their little fingers as you go.
And then he'll go meet up with Simon at Elysium.
Okay. That just leaves Tito heading back to the Priory. Anything in particular you're doing there, Tito? Besides cleaning up, I imagine.
Yeah, cleaning up. You'll look for Camille.
Alright, we'll transition as you find Camille in the Priory. You do find her. You make your way back into the Priory, feeling and smelling terribly. Do you change first, or do you look for Camille first?
Well, in this case, it's more important to get blood.
So, Camille?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see here. It was... Yes, it's only been one night. No, it's been 2 nights. You slept in the rooms. You find Camille. She is in the Priory in the nave, speaking to Juliet, and she turns to you, away from her, and Juliet sees you and nods, but she heads in the direction of her chamber, actually. And Camille is walking down the nave and sees you, and you see something like... You're not sure exactly what expression it is. It's happiness, but uncertainty. Her eyes are big at seeing you, and her hands kind of clasp together as she walks towards you. My lord, good evening. And her eyes go to the floor.
Good evening, Camille.
You did not return the previous night. I worried.
It was a dangerous situation last night, but trouble yourself no further.
She looks down at the... I assume Tito's just kind of been carrying the skull somewhere on him.
Yeah. He was like hiding in the sleeves of his robe, keeping his hands together, kind of thing.
She looks down at your clothes and the dirtiness and the grime, the messy ashes. You do look a bit worse for wear. Perhaps I might attend to you. And her eyes go up with hope.
Yes, you could. Tito will step forward, kind of bring his hand up to like hold her chin, and his finger kind of tilted up towards him, look her in the eyes. And he'll lean in for the kiss.
She's smiling as you come close and doesn't seem to fight at all when you bite down. And as you bite down and you taste that blood, you taste the blood you tasted that same night, the sweet nectar, and you feel the beast as strong, almost as strong as it was that night. Make a self-control roll, difficulty 8.
Yeah. Tito will spend the willpower on this.
Wow. That would have been a botch if it wasn't for the willpower spent. You're biting down, you're feeding upon her, and you could see that she was already quite pale, that she was not fully recovered from you feeding on her 2 nights ago, along with your sire. And the beast takes over just long enough. You begin feeding, and you realize you can't stop immediately. You keep feeding, you keep biting down, and you feel her hands come up lightly to you in some kind of weak protest. Even as she enjoys it, she seems to know something's wrong, and you just keep feeding. You feed until you've gained 6 blood points before you finally pull back just long enough. You've gained just enough that you're able to snap back away from the beast. You're sated enough to see that Camille is collapsing down. Unless you should try and stop her, she's going to fall to the floor.
Tito will let her fall to the floor. He's upset that he lost control, but at this moment it's a loss he'll have to recoup later.
Indeed, you've never seen her this pale before. She seems still on the ground from all of that.
There's maybe just a slight tinge of sadness, but Tito overcomes it and looks for a servant to take care of this mess.
Yeah, you don't have to go far before you find one of Juliet's retainers, one of her herd, these acolytes, and you point them in the direction of the body. And they stare at you for just a few moments before nodding grimly, and they pass by you back in the direction to pick up what remains of Camille.
And Tito will then go and get cleaned up.
Okay. You don't feel anything. It's a remarkable change. You remember that night you had some reluctance, something holding you back, but tonight it's nothing. You don't view anything on the loss of Camille as anything more than the loss of a tool, maybe. And you get cleaned up. And leave, I assume, in the direction of Elysium immediately.
Correct.
With that, transition. Meanwhile, back in Elysium, The coterie is reforming. Simon and Michael, you arrive back there around the same time. You see Elysium is about as full as you might expect it to be. Rebecca Godfrey seems to be speaking with Helen. No Bella Matea tonight, but otherwise nothing else seems to be truly amiss. But the two of you see each other at least, unless Simon meant to hide himself.
No, he doesn't.
Michael's keeping one hand on his satchel. Is Jack floating about?
Right now, he is not.
Well, Tito would have made sure to get like a sack to just carry the skull with him.
It's a good idea.
Apart from Rebecca, who else is meandering about?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Apart from Rebecca, who else is here?
Let's see here. The Bruja. You see a woman you've recognized in the past as one of the La Sombra, Ellen Alice, and she's speaking with the Chamberlain, who is present, Robin Oliver, also La Sombra. You see Helen, of course, speaking to Rebecca Godfrey. You see Caleb Esquire, child to Genevieve. And a Toreador by the name of Robert Dufour, who seems to be speaking with another Toreador named Charles Wright, and they have a number of retainers with them. And no Tremere.
Well, that's a blessing, isn't it? So it seems nobody really that I need to talk to anyway.
A lot of neonates, besides the Chamberlain.
Out of curiosity, anybody who might fit the description of Taziana? It's a long shot, but
No, you don't see anyone like that.
I have a feeling. So Michael is going to approach Simon if he's not already right up against him. I wonder if one good turn wouldn't result in a bit of help being slid my way.
Pardon?
I got word from Rebecca over there. Apparently there's an erstwhile cousin of mine flitting about in Toreador domain. I wouldn't mind a bit of aid tracking her down. I don't expect to have to kill this one.
I haven't had much luck hunting Gangrel.
Oh, you
Well-
wouldn't be any hunting involved. Just traipsing about looking for diminutive red-haired Italian girls.
Since you helped me, I suppose I feel obligated to help you.
Oh, say no such thing. As I said, one good turn. If you're not up for it, I totally understand.
Oh, I'm up for it, I suppose. Hopefully this one won't have vanished as completely as Gage did.
That's what I hope to prevent.
That whelp still hasn't been found.
Much like the Nosferatu, if Gangrel don't want to be found, they're just not found. Alternately, he could just be dead.
He was last seen in the company of Avery Thorne, who has returned. I just haven't had the time to ask.
Avery Thorne has not returned.
I thought that he had. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry, no, he hasn't. He's
No,
also
he-
missing.
He would correct that too. Has also not returned.
I'd say around this time is when Tito passes through the curtain screen and you see the same scene. Ellen and the Chamberlain, Robin Oliver, give you sidelong glances as they speak. You there, Tito?
Yes. Tito does step in.
Did you hear what I said?
Repeat that, please.
You see the same scene, and you see that Ellen Ellis and the Chamberlain Robin Oliver give you sidelong glances as you enter, and they're speaking together in one of these booths.
Tito notices this, but looks instead for Michael and Simon.
And you see them talking as well.
He'll step towards them.
Why, Tito, it's like we never parted.
Did it strike either of you as a bit odd that the old fellow knew so much about each of us? I've scarcely been in London for a whole 10 years combined.
It's not too odd.
We know already that he has other connections in the city. They've been sharing information, it seems. Add that atop the Nosferatu's natural ability to find out secrets, well.
There's maybe a handful of people in all of Great Britain that know who my sire is.
Well, think deeply on that, and if you come across any names, we can add them to our list of potentials to root out for treason.
Aye, and two of them are here. One's Jack, the other's Vane.
That is a troublesome thought.
And I find it hard to believe that either one of them would be tracking with these kind.
Perhaps when we meet with Jack, delay mentioning. I wonder. Perhaps we should just take this information directly to the prince.
No.
You don't think so?
You're aware of what happened in the sewers, eh? It's pretty obvious Michael's not going to just come out and say it. Not in the middle of Elysium.
Yes.
You really think it's wise to tell a Bruta prince the details of that? I'm sure that Ambrose is a fair and just ruler. I've not met him myself, but they're not known for their, shall we say, patience.
I would say this is critical information.
Oh, I don't doubt that. I simply doubt that we're the best vehicle for conveying that information.
If your suspicion holds true, there's no guarantee that information will reach the prince.
I'll vouch for Jack.
Very well.
Besides which, he's been dealing with Ambrose a good deal longer than we have. Likely knows a bit more of his quirks and how best to couch certain revelations.
Then I trust we should not delay longer. Let us speak with Jack.
Yes, let's make him angry for the second night in a row.
Well, he's not here. So it stands to reason if he's not here, he's either at the tower or taking care of personal business.
Tito glances towards Robin.
You catch his eye looking at you, but he turns back to Ellen.
I suspect my brother might know of where Jack is.
You feel free to go ask him. I'm betting on the tower.
That is a good bet. His glance bothers me, though. I should say something.
Punch him in the face and be done with it.
Tito smirks as he stands and heads towards Robin.
You see the two of them end their conversation as you begin to approach, and they watch you in something of an uncomfortable silence as you draw close enough to speak. Ellen doesn't really say anything or change her disposition as she is watching you quietly. But Robin speaks up with something of a weak smirk on his face. Tito Vega. I hear interesting things about you and our sire. Are they true?
Depends on what you've heard.
His eyes narrow at you. Of course, it's none of my business what I've heard or not heard. It seems whatever you've done, you are well now, better perhaps than you have been. I applaud you for your transformation. It suits you.
That it does. It's a shame you saw no merit in it.
He glares at you for a moment. I don't imagine you came here to make idle chit-chat.
How could I go by through the night without saying hello to my sibling?
He doesn't respond to that, he just watches you.
Fine.
Ellen
I
seems
will.
to rise after an uncomfortable silence of several moments between the two of you. I should be going. Excuse me, Tito.
Farewell, Ellen.
She rises from the booth and leaves somewhat quickly. He just gives you this look of... You're not sure what. Maybe amusement? Or... maybe a patronizing look? You're not exactly sure what it is.
Should Tito roll empathy?
Sure, you can roll perception empathy. Give you difficulty 8. Wow. Re-roll those 4 10s. You are seeing through him tonight. Alright, 6 successes. You get a lot from this. The timing is really everything. As Ellen's leaving, you catch this glance. He's got something on his face that tells you he's satisfied and amused, perhaps, that he knows she had some kind of negative interaction and something has broken down between the two of you, and that perhaps he's building more rapport. It's this smug look, and you think it has to relate to your relationship with Ellen.
Well, since I'm here, I may as well ask. Have you seen the sheriff around?
What do I look like? His keeper. I understand that's our title, but in truth, it's a poor one. No, I'm afraid I have not seen the sheriff. Perhaps he's doing his job. As you should, Hound.
That I should. Of course, my job requires speaking with him. Perhaps he's at the tower.
Perhaps you might tell me what you mean to tell him. And
Are
I will
you
relay it.
interested?
I am in the service of the prince, of course, as is Jack. I see him on occasion.
I wish that I could say you would deliver this in a timely manner.
More critical information of your hunters?
Not quite that. It does deal with the investigation, however.
Then I'm certain I can oblige. He folds his arms.
Like I said, I do not know if I can trust you. And of course I have good reason for this.
I am the Chamberlain. Of course you can trust me. I have an official capacity to the Prince.
About this time, with how long it's taking, Michael's going to nudge Simon and jerk his head towards the door. I think that's our cue to fuck off.
I agree. This is getting a little too personal.
We'll check the tower ourselves.
Oh, are the two of you following Tito?
No, we're going to the tower without him before he gets himself in fucking trouble.
No, we didn't follow him over to Robin.
Okay, that's what I
Just
thought.
watching him from across the room.
Okay. Yeah, the two of you are able to make a quick exit as you see this exchange going south.
Well, do not worry. Once I speak with Jack, I'm sure you'll hear news.
And I'm sure the prince would not like to hear that you are delaying this investigation over some petty feelings or angst you have towards me.
Hmm. Well, if you intend to head to the tower, we can travel side by side, because that is where I intend to go next.
Roll your manipulation expression. Difficulty 8.
No expression.
It's a talent, so you don't get any penalty. He rises out of his booth, looking irritated, and he straightens out his long tunic. I think instead, Tito, you will tell me what is so important, and I will relay it. And then you will get back to your job. I think this is much more to my satisfaction, and that of the prince.
Tito gives Robin a bored look. Fine. You can tell. Wait, the prince. I'm working with the sheriff on this investigation. Should you not be reporting to him?
Indeed, I will, though I am certain the prince is going to be displeased at how much time you are wasting bickering. If you cannot even trust me, what does that say in your confidence in the prince appointing me? Perhaps he would like to hear of that. But this is vital information. I need to know this. And whatever it is,
Indeed
I will
it is.
strategize with the sheriff and the prince. These are of concerns higher than perhaps you are prepared to deal with.
Well, I would love to tell you why I do not trust you, but it should not be said in public.
Your news. Spit it out.
Neither should this news be said in public.
Then have a seat, he says, looking back to the booth.
And Tito will head towards the booth.
And he joins you, glaring the entire time. Out with it, then.
Listen, dear brother. I've chosen not to say anything because it would obviously cause strife, but I know full well it was you that sent those peasants with torches at my coterie on that night in the graveyard.
He stares at you unblinking, still as a statue.
And I do have a witness, so this is no idle talk I am presenting you. You do not want to pursue this.
A smirk grows the corner of his face. Come now, Tito. Are you sure you want to go down this road? Do you really believe I made it to where I am without a number of friends in the court, in the city? Do you really believe that you can stand against me? Please. Let us dispense with that facade, with this fiction. Tell me your news. I will deliver it to the sheriff. A plan will be made with whatever information you have, if it is relevant. And I will pretend you did not embarrass yourself with such a threat as that.
But I'm so confident that this is not a bluff. Now, like I said, I do not wish to cause strife over this. But if you continue, I will.
Roll your manipulation, intimidation, difficulty 8.
Sorry, what was the difficulty again?
8. Robin tilts his head a bit at you at those words. You seem very confident in these words. Whatever this trumped up charge, whatever favor owed to you this may be, I believe you are fool enough to bring us both down. Fair enough. You may report what you may to the sheriff. I will hear of it. And perhaps later will come to light that you are so caught up in this rivalry that you do not trust the prince's appointed officials to do their tasks. And he rises and leaves.
Tito is quick to leave as well. He intends to go to the tower.
Alright. You leave. We transition back to the streets. Meanwhile, outside of Pop Lollies, going back to Simon and Michael. what do we see when we turn back to the two of you? Were you beelining for the tower? Were you waiting to see if Tito would come out? Or what was the plan there?
Michael fully expected Tito to get himself thrown in shackles, so he was not hanging around to see what the aftermath of that was going to be.
And Simon, ever dutiful, will follow where Michael leads. He really does get himself caught up in things.
He sure does. I would say the two of you make your way in the direction of the tower. You're stopped, as usual, at the edge of the curtain wall, portcullis. And you're stopped there long enough, actually, for Tito to catch up to you, as he wasn't there many minutes beyond you. And so the three of you join up again at the outside, waiting for some guards to relay messages.
Oh, congratulations, you're not under arrest or dead.
Why, thank you.
Fucking family squabbles.
I know, right?
Told you, just punch him in the face and be done with it.
Elysium rules.
It didn't say do it in Elysium. That'd be fucking stupid. Catch him in the street, knock him to the ground, kick him in the balls, tell him to back the fuck off.
I would imagine he's not found on the street too often.
At least not that I know of. But the matter has been settled for now.
It's settled once you've blooded his nose a bit.
Well, this issue was a tad bit more serious.
That's how we did it back home. It's how we do it in Clan Gangrel. Suits us just fine.
I trust we have not much longer to wait.
That's up to Shiny and Shiny out here.
Very well then.
But again, I suppose I could just punch him in the face and be done with it. He looks pointedly at both the guards.
Is that your answer to everything?
Tends to serve me quite well.
How are you still alive?
Practice. And being able to take a punch.
Well, there are times when brute force is very useful.
Michael is still glaring at both of the guards pointedly.
Tito's content to wait until they let us in.
Alright. It's pretty standard fare at this point for you to be escorted, and soon enough you are brought to the tower. But this time you're escorted not to the throne room, not to the White Tower. You're brought instead to another part of the Tower of London. Not the dungeon or anything, it's just not the throne room itself. It's one of these southern buildings that you assume serve as, residence, barracks. There are other buildings within the Bailey and the rest of the Tower of London. You transition as you make your way in there. The three of you, escorted by guards, make your way into something of it's a fairly bare room. Standard stone walls and columns affixed. There's not much in this room. There are a few crates of supplies, some swords on the wall. You think maybe this is a barracks or some armament. and the sheriff steps out from one of these hallways as you're left there. And you see him, and he's got some paper in his hand. He's lowering it and looking over to the group of you. I had word. 3 of you are back here. What is it?
Well, there's good news and there's bad news.
He glowers a bit, folding the crumpled paper into his jacket.
Which did you have first?
Just fucking out with it. I don't have time for this.
The good news is, we were able to find Harper. And he turns and looks at Tito. Why don't you tell him about the message we found in his haven?
I believe you have it in your satchel, no?
I do, but I can't recall. Jack, do you read?
Luckily, I have been instructed on the lettered.
So he'll pull out the newest missive from Harper's stash and hands it over.
He takes it and begins looking it over.
Do you recognize the script? The hand?
Not particularly. It's unsigned. It addresses you. It says, looking over to Tito. Where'd you get this?
From Harper's Haven.
And he just gave that to you.
No, exactly. I'm going to run with the assumption that Tito conveyed the basic message in there.
The bad news is, while we were trying to apprehend him, he met his final death.
His glower turns wide and fierce. You what?
Michael takes a step back and kind of holds his hands out. As he backs away. Now, Jack, remember, he knew we were coming, and he'd been instructed to deal with us in a certain way.
Yes, in the way of thousands of gold rats.
He grits his teeth and bares his fangs. Takes a few steps over and buries his fist into the wall, which shudders the room, and a few stones come loose. That was our only real lead.
This has occurred to me. However, Harper's Haven was directly under Toreador domain.
What does that tell us? He was in the waterways. He had to be under somebody's domain.
Aye, but he didn't have to have a giant iron slab, complete with decorative locking mechanisms.
What? What are you on about?
He was guarding something, Jack.
He looks to Tito and Simon as if they'll fill in the blanks.
It's entirely possible that's why he was posted in that area.
And Michael's going to try and pull out the we'll say, less clean parchment that Harper dropped in the water. Hoping that having dried, it's a little more legible.
That note was to be given to me if I sided with Marco.
He takes it and looks at it. It is worthless. It's all gone, except for this symbol. What does this mean? He says, turning it around to you.
Out of character, I just forgot.
It was the same symbol on the same piece of paper that Marco Vespucci gave to you. Otherwise, I don't know if he has any other context for that symbol. I don't believe he does. Unless your notes say otherwise.
Negative.
So yeah, it's... Let me see.
The man was in service to Vanek.
That he was.
I don't see any mention of Vanek on either of these. What proof?
That's what the symbol represents, I would suspect. I'd give it to you from his own mouth, but, well, he's not really here to say as much.
He snarls again.
More's the pity.
Tito does reach into the sack and pull out his skull. This is all that remains of Harper.
But why the hell did you take that?
A fair question, Jack. I'd love to know the answer myself.
So you can gloat on how you fucked this up?
I'm sure there are some powers that may be able to pull more from this.
What, look like a necromancer? What good is that to me?
No. Do you happen to know one?
Do I happen to... He starts to walk towards you, his hands in fists. No, I don't have any fucking necromancers in my pocket.
Perhaps the... Well...
Perhaps a particular Cassandra could be of aid.
Ah. Perhaps they could.
I've not known the Cassandras to know much of necromancy.
No. But items of particular significance.
Good luck making sense of whatever you get out of one of them. The only one I've seen around town anymore is that Simone.
Tell me, do you know if she's any love lost for old Dr. Fontaine?
I've heard she doesn't... hold him in high standard.
Then I'd start there.
That is a start.
The sheriff turns back to Simon, who's been quiet during this time.
Simon doesn't like the sheriff's glare, and he'll look at him.
I was only doing what my primogen asked me to do. Whatever other madness these two engage in, I'm not part of that.
I do convey my condolences and apologies.
He hisses again and begins to pace. Then go, find a necromancer, find a Malkavian. Find me something while I work with this. Whatever you have given me. I'll speak with the prince. Perhaps there's enough to investigate Lord Vespucci on this. Perhaps not.
I'd had a different question for you, Jack, but you seem out of sorts. I hate to trouble you with clan business.
Out with it.
I hear tell there's a young one who's been running afoul of the Toreador clan.
Aye. Taziana. I know her.
I wanted to be sure. I don't trust the painted roses as far as I can pitch them.
She's been giving me some amount of grief out in the Toreador's domain.
I wondered if you wouldn't mind if I took her off your hands a bit. Bring her into the fold, as it were.
He brings his hands up as if, like, backing off of something, and his eyebrows raise. Please. Please do. I have enough to fucking handle right now.
That's what I thought. I do miss a good tussle with a wild rose.
He brings his finger up to you. Don't kill any of them, or I will have to show up.
Of course not. I merely wanted to make a demonstration of where the young lass stands.
I can look the other way on a couple ghouls, but I can't do that if a canite dies.
No, of course not. But I figure if I put Taziana down a few times, she'll stop getting up. Maybe listen.
Do as you will. This will keep her occupied.
Aye. Maybe give her a permanent place to stay.
He shakes his head and shrugs, as if not caring one way or the other. If that's all, then go.
Always a pleasure, Jack. Pleasant evening to you.
Yes.
He just shakes his head again, looking annoyed, and storms off. I leave the scene to the three of you.
Michael kind of straightens his tunic a bit and looks at Tito and arches his brow. Looks like you have a Cassandra to track them.
That I do.
If the Saints be with us, we'll have an extra pair of claws on hand the next time we have to go out thumping about.
Yes, well. Marco will be more of a danger now.
He was less of a danger before.
He wasn't fully aware of my allegiance.
A hidden dagger still cuts. Now that the dagger's not so hidden, doesn't mean it wasn't dangerous before you could see it.
Alas, I lost my dagger. Why did you have to remind me?
We'll get you a new one. Quit your belly aching.
Yes, I'm sure we can arm you.
Incidentally, are there any daggers in here?
Oh, absolutely. There's some blades set across the wall and table, actually. They're right in front of you.
Michael's just going to pick one up and hand it to Simon.
This does not belong to you.
It doesn't belong to them either.
Fair enough.
And he'll tuck it into his trousers.
Besides, So many here. What's one gonna turn up missing for?
So are we just chasing our tails in the dark? Or do you think these Malkavians can answer your questions? I'm getting bored with fucking up.
Trust me, dealing with the Malkavians, that trend will not end.
If there's nothing else you need me for tonight, I think I need to have a word with Tristan.
No.
Just remember, if you happen to come across any diminutive Italian girls with red hair, let me know.
I'll keep my eye out, but London's a big city, Michael.
A fact not lost on me. And Michael's going to lead the way out.
Alright, and the two of you following?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, time to leave.
The two of you make your way out of the Tower of London through escorts once more and back out the streets. And as you are back in the city, we will pause here since it's 4 hours in, and we will pick this up next week.
All right.
Cool.